Hey dudes, welcome to lesson 1 for module 3. We're starting a new module. Woo-hoo! And this one's about fractions, and we're going to start right off with a little bit of arts and crafts time. And today we're trying to show equivalent fractions using number line, using an area model, using some paper strips, pretty much any way we can to show equivalent fractions. And so what I started off with was some strips. I have a piece of paper and cut that paper into 4 different strips, okay? And we're going to use these guys to just kind of have a visual model, and then we're going to compare that to number line, and then we're going to compare that to some area models, some squares. So if you have yours already, that's great. If you haven't, just get a piece of paper and fold it in half vertically, and then fold that in half, cut along, and you should have 4 strips, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to take the first strip. I want you to fold that strip in half and open it up. And how many pieces did we fold that into? How many equal parts do we have in our whole? We have 2 equal parts. And what fraction of this whole strip, what fraction is 1 part? Well, that would be 1/2, 1 out of 2, right? And so what I did was I wrote 1/2 on each of those sections, each of those pieces, and I drew a line in the middle to show that that was my 1/2. All right, and so then I have my 1/2. Now what I want to do is take an additional one to show thirds. So I have this piece of paper, and I need to fold it into thirds. We're going to be close. Basically, I'm going to fold this into three different pieces. And I'm going to be close. It's not going to be totally exact. And so I folded it into 3 pieces. So I have 1 piece here, I have another piece here, and I have another piece here. So the total of this one whole, as I folded it into 3 pieces, and each piece represents 1 out of the 3 pieces, right? So I'm going to write that on there as well, 1/3, and I'm going to draw a line to make sure that I can a line right where I folded it at that shows that that's where the piece begins and ends. So you'll see I have 1/3, 1/3, and 1/3. Okay. We have halves, we have thirds. Let's make fourths. So I'm going to fold this guy into fourths. So I'm going to do the same thing here that I did with my half. I'm going to fold it in half, and then I'm just going to take that and fold that half in half, because I know that that will give me 4 different pieces. As I'm unfolding these, I'm creasing it the other way just to make it a little easier to work with. And so what I've done is I've folded this one whole into 4 different sections. I have 4 different sections, and so each section represents 1 out of the 4 sections. And so I have a 1/4, and I have my line, and I have 1/4. I have my line, 1/4. And 1/4. Cool. So I've turned my whole into fourths. I have 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, and 4/4 to represent my whole. And this last one is going to be fifths. It's not going to be quite exact. I know that it's going to be smaller than my fourths. So make it like that. That looks pretty good. 1, and I'm just going to fold that guy over 2. 3, 4, and 5. Cool. I open this up. I should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces. I do. That's great. And I'm going to go ahead, and each one of these pieces is going to be 1 out of the 5 that I folded it into. So 1 out of 5. 1 out of 5. Okay. So now I have my paper strips ready to roll. I have this one was the fifths, 1/5, 2, 3/5, 4/5, and 5/5 equals my whole. Awesome. And what I can do is up here, I can show you. I can draw a little line to show you what that looked like. There's my half. Oh, awesome. My half, my thirds, and my fourths, and my fifths. Actually, I might want to do that differently. Let's try this out. Let's try this out. I'm going to do up here. There's my halves, my thirds, my fourths, and my fifths. We'll do it up top here so that we can do that. And then, so that I can show you, I have a reason for doing this. 1/2, 1/2. And my next one will split into thirds. It looks like this. 1/3. There's 3 of them. And the next one was 1/2 of 1/2. And that would be 1/4. And the last one was fifths, and like I said, those were smaller. And that's 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4, and 5/5. Awesome. So those are my little strips up there. Okay. What we're also going to do is, let's just start off with this halvesy here, and what I'm also going to do is I'm going to take and I'm going to draw myself a little number line underneath it. It's just a little bit longer, and I'm going to partition that off like this, so that I have 0 and I have 1. So this right here is equal to 1 up here, and in the middle I have 1/2. Here I have no halves, right? And here I have 2 halves, right? So 1, 2 equals my 1 whole. And then I'm also going to go ahead and I'm going to draw myself a little square here, and I'm going to cut that square in half, and so I'm going to shade in my half. So what I have here now is I have 3 different ways that I've represented this half. I have my strip, my visual representation. I have my number line, and then here I have my area model. This whole square here does represent 1. Okay, this whole thing represents 1. Now, what I want to do is I want to take, let's do another one to the right of this, because I want to keep that one as a reference here. This is 1/2, right, or 1 out of 2 is shaded, and I want to take, I want to make another half here. And now what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to show an equivalent fraction for this 1/2 here. Okay. So I'm going to take it, and I'm actually going to take this guy, and I'm going to cut him in half this way. Okay. So what I've done is I've taken my half here, and I've made 2 groups. I've taken 1, and I have now 1 group of 2. Okay. So now I have 2, and I have 2 out of my 4 total. Okay. I took my 1 and I cut it into 2. And that gave me 2. And I took my 2 total and I cut that into 2, which gave me 4 total. Do you see how that worked? Okay. So so if I have 2/4, and let me get my fourths here. If I have 2/4, and I have 2 of those little guys here, see 2/4, 2/4. 2/4 should be equal to 1/2, and you see that here, this 2/4, these here, should be equal to this 1/2, right? They are equivalent fractions, right? Okay. And if I were to make myself a number line over here for this fourths, well, let's do that then. Let's jot these guys off to where I have a 0 here and I have a 1 here. 1 represents the whole. And here I would have 0/4, and here I have 1/4, and here I have 2/4, and here I have 3/4, right? And so, and here I would have 4/4. So if I said this was my 1/2, and this point here is my 2/4, are those equivalent? They sure are, right? It's both a point in the half. Okay. Okay, then let's go ahead and do one with thirds. Then let's do one with thirds. Let's take our 1/2, my 1/2, and I'm going to take this guy. Sweet. And let's cut this guy into thirds here then. So I took my 1/2. I took 1 of them and I cut that into 3. So I'll put three groups of that 1, and that equaled 3, right? And I took my whole, my 2, and I cut those into 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I got a total of 6 total pieces that I cut it into. So 3/6. Awesome. And so 3/6 would be exactly 1/2. So I have three different ways that I've made equivalent fractions to 1/2. Or sorry, did I say 3? I meant 2. 2/4 and 3/6 are equivalent fractions to 1/2. Cool. So now I'm gonna partition this off. Partition means like put this into different sections and different groups. I'm gonna partition that off here, and I'm gonna do the same thing with thirds. I'm gonna go ahead and make my little number line here with thirds. I have 1, and I have 0, and I have 1. And here I have 0 thirds, and here I have 1/3, 2 thirds, and 3 thirds, right? And I have my whole here. And so let's just do the same thing. Let's make ourselves a box, and I broke it up into 3, and I have 1 out of 3, right? Okay, so 3 different ways to show 1/3. Awesome, 1/3. Let's go ahead, if I do the same thing then, and I'm just going to want to make some equivalent fractions of 1/3, well then I'll show my 1/3, right? Show my 1/3. I want to find an equivalent fraction, so let's just break that guy in half. And I took my 1, and I broke it into 2 pieces, so 1 into 2 pieces. And that was 2, right? I have 2 shaded now. Out of a total, I had 3, right? And I cut that into 2 pieces. So so now I have a total of 2 out of 6, right? 1, 2 out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The equivalent fraction of 2/6 is the same as 1/3. Let's go ahead and let's do it even another one here. If I can squeeze it in here, and let's do thirds. And let's cut it into 3 pieces now. 1 like that, right? This is the one that I have. I sliced it up into 3 pieces. So now I have 1, 2, I have 3 out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 3 out of 9 that are shaded in. So I have a couple different equivalent fractions. I have 3/9, I have 2/6, and I have 1/3, and I can see visually how they are all the same. Let's go ahead and do, while we're on the thirds, let's do one for, actually let me take that line back. Let's do one for 2/3 then. So we're going to keep with our thirds, and let's try this out. And if I go ahead and I have this, and I have, let's say, 2 out of the 3 that are shaded, right? You see that? I have 2 thirds that are shaded. Well, how can I make that into an equivalent fraction? Same thing, just slice it down the middle here, draw 1 out. Now how many do I have shaded? 1, 2, 3, 4. So now I have 4 out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 4/6. So that would be an equivalent fraction to 2/3. I could do the same thing by taking the square, and I could cut it into my thirds, and I could shade my 1, shade my 2 sections, and I could cut that into 3 pieces like that. And I could count that up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That would leave me with 6 out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, or 6/9. All right? That's equal. Those are all equal. Okay. The last one that I want to do is do with my fifths here. Sorry, fifths? Did I say fifths? I did, but I don't want to use that one. Excuse me. Is with my fourths. I want to make equivalent fractions of 5/4. And now this one's different. This is an improper fraction in that the numerator on top has more than the denominator. And so what I'll do is then, well, let's draw out a rectangle. Hang on, I'm going to need a little bit, tiny bit more space than that, so I got to draw that a little smaller. I'll draw out my rectangle, okay? And I have these, the whole is cut into 4 pieces. So the whole is cut into 4 pieces, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I have that 1, 2, 3, 4, and I have another one. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw here another one that I'm going to cut into 4 pieces. And I ultimately have 5 out of 4, right? 5 of items that are cut into 4s. And so I could just do the same thing with this by slicing it down the middle. And I would now have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I have 10 out of 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 out of 16. So you can see that just by go ahead and I took this and I multiplied each side by 2, right? Wait, did I say 16? Yeah. But I didn't say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9, 10, 11. But it's not out of 16. See, that's where I went wrong. What was I thinking of? It's not out of 16. It's actually out of 8 still. See, I made a mistake there. Sorry about that. So anyways, that's equivalent fractions. Go ahead and rock it out. Basically what you're doing is, and just as an overview here, we had our paper strips and we had our number lines, and then we started making these area models, and we took one area model and we just drew a line down the side, and that counted up to how many that we did have shaded in. What's up, Rhino? And then how many we had total, and so here I have 1, 2 out of a total of 4. And then I took the same thing and I cut it up into 3 pieces each, and I have 1, 2, 3 out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we said that 3/6 was the same as 2/4, was the same as 1/2. Over here with thirds, I did the same thing. I did 1/3. I cut that up into 2 sections. I got 2/6. Cut that up into 3 sections. I got 3/9. Over here, did the same thing. Cut that 2/3 in half, and I ended up getting 4 out of 6. Down here, cut it up into 3s and got 6 out of 9s. Over here, where I made my mistake that I'm really embarrassed about, I had 5/4. I actually had more than 1. I had 5/4. I cut that in half to get 10/8. Okay? Rock it out. Do a great job. And post any comments or questions. And thanks for watching.